Hi there, it's Christopher again. After the last ranty kind of clip, I thought we'd go back to basics. Methodology 101, as it were. If you don't know that expression, anything 101 is the basics. So, according to one of the online dictionaries, boiling an egg is cooking 101. I want to look at something that's teaching 101. And today, you will notice that I do indeed have a little bird in the background on an ironing board. Just in case you don't find what I'm saying very interesting, you can look at the bird. So we've been talking about, I've been talking, haven't I really, about getting students speaking, especially in pairs. And the question occurs, what does the teacher do while the students are speaking in pairs? Now, sometimes it takes so much effort to get them to the point where they are speaking in pairs that we might feel tempted just to kind of sit back and just take a break. Or if it's a high stakes, high pressure observed lesson, well, I've seen teachers quite a lot of the time set their students up speaking and then just kind of stand there frozen, sort of staring at them from a distance, thinking I should be doing something now, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to stand, what I'm going to do. So they kind of just hover menacingly. Whether it's an observed lesson or your day-to-day lesson, the best thing you can do when you've set your students up speaking in pairs is to grab a little notepad or a piece of paper and go and listen to a couple of them. Of course, you're not going to be able to listen to the whole class. They know that. They might be teenagers, but they're not daft. They know that. They don't expect you to try. But you can certainly listen to a pair, possibly two pairs. And that is real monitoring for language. And any feedback you give, which of course will focus on the good things they say, and any errors, you don't have to anchor it, attach it to those two. You don't have to say, you guys made this mistake. You say, how could we make this better? Often people that make a mistake will kind of, it was me. But we're giving that feedback in a non-threatening, non-critical way. And we're focusing on the good stuff. And also very useful is, you said this. I think a nice thing you could also say is, and then we just sort of drop something in to season what they've said. So, what you take from listening to two students or two pairs during a speaking phase, it is a real sample. It will be representative of what the class as a whole is saying to a greater or lesser degree, but it will always be representative to an extent. So you've got a real sample of real language. Plus, as I say, there's kind of symbolism that is emblematic. It's what in the student's eyes, it's what you're meant to be doing. You've asked them to speak, and although you might not be listening to, two students, actually, the teacher might not be listening to us from the student's perspective. They can see that you are listening to students because that's what you're meant to be doing. That makes sense of it. Even if it's not listening to every student, even if a student doesn't get listened to personally, they can see that the teacher is listening to the students. It makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the teacher just kind of sat there like this, looking at everybody. And that, I think, is why sometimes speaking phases just fall flat as well. The students look and think, well, even the teacher isn't listening to us. So, we've grabbed our little piece of paper, which I'm flapping around annoyingly. Or, I don't know, is it annoying you? Nah, it doesn't, is it? Or our little notepad. We've got options. But I think it's important that we think about where we're going to position ourselves before. So we're going to ask them to talk in pairs. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? The most beautiful thing is to have a little stool near to our table or under our table and to be able to shift it over and sit there and listen. And I like to listen sort of facing parallel to the students, or at right angles, but not actually staring at them. The worst thing is to hover over them, because that's just weird. So just sit down and just tune in. So if they stop talking, no, I'm just listening. You've probably heard me say this many times. So if we haven't got a little stool, we can take our chair and position it. But we've thought beforehand, about where we will be sitting, and realistically about, how many people we can listen to. If somebody interrupts us as we're listening, which they may well say, "Teacher, how do you say?" Fine, they interrupt us. And we just seamlessly go back to listening when we've finished. Another option is to do what I've mentioned in earlier videos, is to use our class within a class, chairs at our teacher's table, and draw a couple of students over, get them to come over to us. Then we don't have to go anywhere. So, okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, speak. You two guys come and do your speaking here. Look, then we're comfortable. We've already got our notepad. We can write, make a few notes and listen, and we don't have to go anywhere. So that's another option. Occasionally, you might go over and sit near a couple of students to listen to them, or ask them to come over, and they'll say, "Oh, we're finished, teacher." Well, problem? No problem. Fine, okay. Can you do it again? This time, just make the sentences that you said before a bit longer. So this is an exercise. The classroom is an artificial place to practice language to an extent. It's also a real place where real communication can happen. But we are drilling, we're like gymnasts some of the time. We're practicing those sentences so we can say them. There's no harm at all, no shame at all in asking students to repeat what they were saying before and give it another run. So that's it. Students start speaking, we start listening. Grab your piece of paper, grab your notebook, go over, sit down, tune into what they're saying. Strength and energy with your teaching. From me and from Birdie, goodbye.